All right. Let's get to it. Speaking of generational fumbles, Donald Trump and the United States of America, who has participated in the generational fumble. So Trump did the classic thing that you do when you have all the leverage, okay? When you have all the leverage in the world and you decide to be like, I didn't even want to do that. I didn't even want to do this deal. I didn't even want to negotiate. Shut up. The foreign minister of Iran was on a trip to Islamabad, okay? And a lot of people were speculating, oh, does this mean that the talks are back on? But the Iranian government very clearly stated, no, this trip is just for bilateral talks between Iran and Pakistan, right? And Donald Trump has already done this. Donald Trump has already done this. You can't fire me. I quit bullshit like 15 times so far. And he chose to do it again. Since Arakshi was going to Islamabad, Donald Trump said, all right, fuck it. We're sending Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff to Islamabad as well because Pakistan is at the table. Pakistan is the table, right? Amidst claiming that we have won and we've destroyed their Navy, we've destroyed their Air Force, we've destroyed Iran, and we're going to destroy it even harder over and over again for like the past 50 plus days at this point. Donald Trump was like, all right, I guess we'll send our envoys. We'll send our envoys to Iran. And then he straight up turned around and said, here's Trump an hour ago, literally saying what he tweeted, law. Yeah. Trump now says he's not sending Witkoff and Kushner to Pakistan after Foreign Minister Arakshi leaves. This has happened repeatedly. Trump claims the Iranians are begging for talks. Iran says it is false. The U.S. says Iran is lying, and then it becomes clear Iran meant what it said. And this has happened over and over again. And the media also plays a role in this, for sure. The media also absolutely reports on whatever the Trump is saying as though it's real. No, Trump is right. The U.S. is refusing talks with Iran like I'm refusing to be best friends with LeBron. Yeah, he keeps hitting me up. He's like, Hasan, let's be besties. I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. I don't have time for you right now, LeBron. You should focus on, playing games, right? Winning. You should focus on winning. You got the playoffs. Like, don't worry about it. I can't deal with it. I have too much on my timeline right now. I have too much work that I have to focus on. It's fine. Like, it's similar, like he's always hitting me up. I'm like, nah, it's fine, dude. Şengün, on the other hand, Alperen, hit me up. We can be homies. Kind of feels like you got more time now. So Şengün, LeBron up 3-0, by the way. I'm just saying, it's Şengün is a disgusting player, bruv. Yeah, I chill out. Okay, cool on that shit. Chill out. Well, you and LeBron do like to wear similar outfits. Probably like to go to the same parties too. Okay. Şengün finna be in Cancun soon. Okay, calm down. Bro, they said Şengün runs like he's got titties. Yo, everybody cool. Okay, chill. Okay, the Turks have already taken too much damage. Pakistan is now the table. It's no longer Turkey. That's already a big hit. And now you're going to come after Alperen Şengün. Even me, I'm getting my ass eat on camera every day by Fox News and shit. Not a good time for Turks internationally. We are not doing all right, okay? Israel's talking about how Erdogan is developing nukes. It's not a good time. 2026 has not been a good year for the Turks. Eric Adams, ever since Eric Adams was kicked out for being too cool and just wanting to do trips to Turkey, everything's gone downhill, man.
You probably heard that we canceled the trip. We have all the cards. We're not going to spend 15 hours in airplanes all the time going back and forth to be giving a document that was not good enough. And so we'll deal by telephone, and they can call us anytime they want.
Oh my God, he's doing the same thing he did with Xi Jinping. Oh my God. Chat, remember when he was like, I'm doing Xi, he wants to call me so bad. He just lost my number. He wants to call me so bad because I'm doing tariffs. He's doing the same shit. Remember, he would go on television and be like, call me Xi. Call me by your name. I will be your twink. I will be your young twink friend. She, call me. Call me, she. Why won't he call me? He's gonna call me. He just doesn't have my number. He's lost it.
Again, we have all the cards. They have no military left, practically. They have no leaders left. We don't know who the leaders are. Nobody knows who the leader. I don't think they know who the leaders are.
He never said that, by the way. Yes, he did. He said all those things. Spiritually. It is very funny. This has happened now 3 times and probably will continue happening. This is spiritually in line with the, why won't she call me? I bet he'll call me anytime now. And also it reminds me of him going, Vladimir, no. Remember when the Ukraine talks were supposed to happen and he's like, day one, I'll fix it. And then he started talking to Vladimir Putin and he's like, Vladimir Putin kept, entertaining the prospect of a ceasefire while using that as an opportunity to keep pummeling Ukraine. And he was like, Vladimir, Vladipo, why are you doing this? Come on, you know this isn't you, Putin. This isn't you. We're such good friends.
So, you saw that. You probably.
I cannot believe how motionless we are. It is unbelievable. Trump needs to fix this shit before the Xi Jinping summit, okay? It's supposed to happen in May. All right? It's coming. It's coming up in like a couple weeks, like 3 weeks from now. He needs to nip this shit in the bud before he goes to Beijing. If he still has this problem when he's going to Beijing, it's over, right? It's done. It's cooked. I don't know. I don't know what to say about this. I mean, it's a hilarious situation. But yeah, here is his truth video and some analysis.
News,
I got to pee
the
real
US
quick.
President Donald Trump has just posted on social media, on his Truth Social account, saying, I just cancelled the trip of my representatives going, is Islamabad, I think it means to Islamabad, Pakistan, to meet with the Iranians. Too much time wasted on traveling, too much work. Besides which, there is tremendous infighting and confusion within their leadership. Nobody knows who is in charge, including them. Also, we have all the cards. They have none. If they want to talk, all they have to do is call. Let's go to Osama bin Javed. He's live for us from the Pakistani capital, Islamabad. So looking at that latest Truth Social, where does that leave the mediation effort by Pakistan that one assumes they were trying to arrange some kind of meeting between the two sides?
Yes, Sami, we've just read it together, as you mentioned it on the air, that President Donald Trump has essentially cancelled the trip that the White House had just advertised about 24 hours ago, in reaction to which the Iranians had said there is no request that they have made. They're not going to talk to the Americans, and they will only speak to them once the blockade is lifted, as per the conditions which were set in the first round. Remember how the first round ended? Well, J.D. Vance, who was supposed to carry on with the negotiations, in the middle of them, after 21 hours, got up and left and said, this is our best and final offer, and the Iranians take it or leave it. And then you saw all that happened in the background. So now this statement coming from the US president essentially, again, just pours cold water on all of the hope that there is a diplomatic way out of this. As we've been reporting in the last week, there's been a multitude of efforts that have been made by various parties, spearheaded by Pakistan, where these talks were supposed to happen. Again, we heard from the Iranian visiting delegation that the Iranians are going to stand by the rules that they have set for these negotiations, the 10 points that were agreed upon between them and the United States, and they're willing to come back to the table if the United States abides by them. And then there's the sticking point. Why did we get here? Well, in the last week, when the ceasefire was extended by the US government, the Iranians opened the Strait of Hormuz, but the Americans insisted they do not want to lift the blockade of the Strait of Hormuz that they have implemented. And the US president said, again, that they have all the cards. So it appears that diplomacy, which had so much hope, is again taking a backseat. What does this actually mean? Well, we'll have to wait and see, because this has just come now. I was speaking to some of the reporters who've been texting and calling President Donald Trump, and some of them who the president had said should stay in Islamabad have been told to come home.
What are you hearing, Osama, from Pakistani mediators. What's the bottom line here? Does this mean that at least the current round of efforts to try and arrange another face-to-face meeting are now, for now, at a dead end?
Well, it is still very early because this has all happened in the last few minutes. So we'll have to wait and see. But officials, including diplomats, security officials, politicians and bureaucrats that I've been speaking to, I don't think that they will see this as the end of the tunnel, because you see, if you've been dealing with the presidency of US President Donald J. Trump, you expect there are going to be some waiting for you in the diplomatic track. So I imagine, and I will have to wait and see what they say, that they will try to reestablish some contact. As we've been told, that diplomacy is best done behind closed doors. None of the details that have been discussed between them, the Pakistanis, the Americans, and the Iranians have not been made public. We also know that the Pakistanis are not alone in this. They've got the backing of Saudi Arabia, the Egyptians, the Turks. This Quad has been spearheading efforts. We also know that in the last 24 hours, the Emir of Qatar has made calls to the US president, urging him to stick to whatever their deal is about a ceasefire and not going towards open conflict. But on the same coin, you've been hearing from the Iranians wary and warning about the US's track record, because the last two times, whether it was in Geneva or Oman, when they were in negotiations, the US and Israel have attacked them. And it was through various Iranian officials that you were hearing.
What will he do about the 1973 War Powers Act? Ignore it? Brother, when's the last time an American president cared about that shit? Come on, dude. Of course, he ignores things. He ignores the Constitution in ways that previous presidents haven't. So, of course, he's going to continue ignoring this in ways that previous presidents have also ignored. Rules, regulations, legislation, the Constitution, these are all concepts that we now know only matter if there is an institution that is willing to hold the president to account. Okay? If there's no accountability, then these things are just niceties that you can choose not to abide by. And Donald Trump has openly shown that there's not really any mechanism in place that will hold him to account. I guess like there's one aspect of this, you know, winning the House of Representatives, winning the Senate, so you can at least have a little bit more leverage over the administration. But at the end of the day, even then you'll have a slim majority at best, and plenty of corporate Democrats who will always find enough votes to fuck over the goal of creating an environment of accountability against this president. So it's just not, you know, social contract is violated over and over again. The notion of a competent government is gone. Everything is fucked.
That they do not trust the United States. The trust deficit is huge. And this is something that the negotiators and the mediators were trying to pull them through, that this sea of trust that exists between them builds some bridges. And I've been told that they were able to build some bridges. That is why you were seeing all of those movements. Again, the US president has just said that he's calling it off. Does that mean diplomacy is dead? Does that mean that the Americans are pulling out? Well, we'll have to wait and see, because the US president makes a lot of statements that have a lot of clarifications coming after it from the White House.
Okay, so Osama bin Javed updating us from Islamabad in Pakistan.
And breaking right now, President Trump just moments ago exclusively telling me over the phone that he has unilaterally canceled Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner's trip to Pakistan to meet with the Iranians. The president says it's not worth his people making the 18-hour flight when he says we have all the cards. He also told me the Iranians can call by phone anytime they want. Our Matt Finn is live in Dubai right now with much more on this breaking new information that sort of changes everything that we thought was going to happen. Matt?
Yeah, here we are again, Aisha. Our team just returned from Pakistan, where we were waiting for the second round of peace talks that never manifested. Our understanding was earlier in the week the vice president was ready and willing to fly to Pakistan.
And then we hear from Fox News, like, this is an endless cycle, right? Donald Trump lies. even normal media outlets like the supposedly unbiased, like liberal media outlets will cover that lie as though it's serious, as though it's real. And then you'll go to Fox News, and Fox News will be like, this is incredible. It's brave, really. It shows how mighty America is. Like, there's just a range of different news coverage that we see every day. Donald Trump lies about something. CNN covers it with a little bit of skepticism. They'll have a panel that's like filled to the brim with the Scott Jennings of the world, who will still offer defenses for Donald Trump. And then we'll turn to Fox News, and Fox News will be like, Donald Trump showed exceptional bravery and strength by claiming that peace talks were on the table when there was no indication that they were from the Iranian side, and now that he realizes that that Arakshi has already left Pakistan, then it would look embarrassing for Trump to send his envoys to Islamabad after Arakshi left, the foreign minister. So he chose to pull back as though there was any sort of ceasefire talks on the table. It's very obvious that Iran is not going to play ball until America abides by some of the initial demands that Iran had made, and the American blockade on top of the Iranian blockade. If they don't do that, then there's no good faith negotiations that can take place. It's understandable that Iran is skeptical, considering that America, under Trump's leadership, has engaged in perfidy twice and started bombing Iran twice during negotiations. Negotiations where the Iranian side was willing to concede to American maximalist demands. So why should they? Doesn't make any sense.
But the Iranian delegation was not ready to go at that point. Now, today, we were waiting for this second round of peace talks to maybe develop, because it was yesterday that White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, on your show as you were anchoring, told Fox that Iran had asked to meet in person and that the White House was sending a delegation to Pakistan today, but it looks like that is not happening. Now, one thing the Pakistani Prime Minister's office is confirming, it says that the Foreign Minister Araghchi did meet with the Iranian delegation today. They did talk about the, quote, current regional situation. So you have to imagine that would likely include the ongoing war. So it's possible there's a scenario where Iran relayed information to Pakistan that Pakistan will now give to the United States. Our understanding was earlier this week, the U.S. delegation was ready and willing to go to Pakistan. They were again today. Now, one of the sticking points here seems to be, of course, enrichment, whether Iran is willing to give up its nuclear program, as the United States is demanding. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth and the president insist that Iran will not have a nuclear weapon. Another layer there is whether Iran will allow the United States to remove uranium, enriched uranium, from their country. Now, the Iran ambassador to India posted earlier today on the matter, negotiations can only lead to a proper outcome when our adversaries recognize our nation's right to the peaceful use of nuclear energy, kind of signaling there that Iran is going to fight for its nuclear program. Obviously, this is a developing situation. Aisha, you had an excellent chat with the president, confirming that the trip to the Middle East has been canceled, and we'll be tracking it throughout tonight. We'll keep you updated, Aisha.
We will. Okay, Matt Finn live for us from Dubai. Matt, thank you very much for that live report. Well, let's now get to retired.
There's a global conspiracy the ruling class to destroy oil production. These are productive forces built by the blood, sweat of the proletariat, and they should not be allowed to do so at any cause. Buddy, what the fuck are you talking about, dude? That is that is incredible. Conspiracy theory. Yes, dude. Yeah, the fucking petro-capitalist pedophiles are trying to destroy their most valuable commodity that has given them unlimited amounts of money and power.
Navy Captain Brent Sadler, he is joining me now.
Do you pet Kaya more now for good PR? Yeah, I pet my dog that I love so that random incels who are one step away from killing themselves on the internet look to that and go, see, he must be petting his dog for me. To you, chatter, I say, place. Take a day off. Can you explain why he said he needs to wrap this up before Beijing? because right now he's in an unbelievably weak position. When he goes to Beijing, he's going to go with no fucking with no leverage whatsoever. What do you mean? Going to your foreign adversary, your main foreign adversary's capital, with while you're stuck waging war against a much poorer country and failing to actually finish the war, failing to accomplish your goals in this region is unbelievably bad. You might as well be begging Xi Jinping to actually create stability in the world at that point. How do you think that's going to look? What do you think that's going to look like for all of America's allies, especially in that region? Murtaza Hussein says, Trump has a high-profile summit scheduled in Beijing with Xi Jinping set for May 14th. That was the new date chosen after the previous one was postponed. Why was it postponed? Because the war was going on. That is just over 2 weeks, which offers a highly compressed window to reinitiate open-ended military confrontation with Iran that may wind up escalating out of control and derailing the intended agenda for that meeting. Every day that passes, in fact, further compresses his time frame to do anything concrete. There's an open front. There's an open front in a region that is unbelievably important for energy for the Asia-Pacific theater. All of the countries that are aligned with the United States of America that is supposed to encircle China in this war in this Cold War that we're waging against China, our number one foreign adversary, are looking to Trump to be like, dude, fix the situation, please. You're destroying our country. You're destroying our countries. We will use Iran as a negotiating tactic with China. They need Iran's oil. That is an unbelievably stupid argument to make, in my opinion. Okay? Like, I'll tell you this much. If America did not go to war with Iran and came into the summit in Beijing having freshly taken over Venezuela, this would be a different conversation. Obviously, China still has tremendous power over America, being China has tremendous power over the United States of America, being the manufacturing hub of the entire planet. But now they're going to China with no force projection capabilities whatsoever. Many U.S. military bases, there are nearly 800 around the world that we know of, are sitting ducks. That's one lesson to draw from this current war, a lesson that won't be lost on other USA adversaries, right? So this analysis is something that we knew about already. NBC is now confirming for the first time what many of us already suspected or knew. The Iranian Air Force bombed U.S. bases in the opening phase of the war. Okay? Washington, American military bases and other equipment in the Persian Gulf region suffered extensive damage from Iranian strikes that is far worse than publicly acknowledged and is expected to cost billions of dollars to repair, according to 3 U.S. officials, 2 congressional aides, and another person familiar with the damage. It was so extensive, okay? It was so extensive, the damage, that we went to Planet Labs, the American government went to American commercial satellite companies and made them stop publishing imagery from the region. And at first it was supposed to be for like 7 days, and now it's permanent. We knew that was confirmation even back then. We already had confirmation. If you were following open source intelligence on Twitter, you already saw many of those strikes. Mizar Vision did, extensive work on this too. The Chinese commercial satellite company. We knew about this already. Now it's confirmed in mainstream news, right? That's why I say Piker Broadcasting Service for tomorrow's news today, right? Subscribe to the People's Broadcasting Service, the Piker Broadcasting Service, for $6 a month or for free with a Twitch Prime to know about tomorrow's news today. We've known about this for like the past fucking 50 days at this point. I told you Iran was cratering American bases to the tune of billions of dollars of damage over and over again. Many people were completely oblivious to this reality, and many people still are completely oblivious to this reality. And on top of that, they have no understanding of what this represents for America's force projection capabilities. They are also completely oblivious to what that even means. What is America's force projection capabilities? That's why you come here to the Piker Broadcasting Service to understand all of these concepts. And hopefully I do a decent job of explaining all this stuff, and it's no longer seen as so complex. The Iranian regime swiftly retaliated after the Trump administration attacked on February 28th. hitting dozens of targets across U.S. military bases in 7 Middle East countries. Those attacks struck warehouses, command headquarters, aircraft hangars, satellite communications infrastructure, runways, high-end radar systems, and dozens of aircraft, according to the U.S. officials and an assessment by the American Enterprise Institute, a conservative think tank in Washington, D.C. In the initial days of the war, an Iranian F-5 fighter jet bombed the U.S. base in Camp Beering in Kuwait. An F-5. Not only were, I don't know what's more disrespectful, $7,000 lawnmowers with propellers flying over the Strait of Hormuz and hitting these fucking Gulf bases and taking out billions of dollars worth of equipment, or a fucking F-5 fighter jet. An F-5 fighter jet that hasn't been modernized at all because of the sanctions, okay? The F-5 made its first flight in 1959. That's fine. We still use a lot of ancient tech. The difference, of course, is when Iran is using that ancient tech, they haven't been able to modernize it because they have no components. They're not allowed to get the parts. They're not allowed to get the fucking proprietary technology. So they're using the 1950s version of the F-5. Despite the base having air defenses, a rare breach that marked the first time an enemy fixed-wing aircraft has struck an American military base in years, according to 2 of the U.S. officials. The 3 U.S. officials familiar with the damage to the U.S. bases in the Middle East described it as extensive. The headquarters building for the U.S. Navy in Bahrain, the nerve center of the Navy's operations in the region, sustained serious damage, the official said. I mean, remember, the quadrant in the Iranian mosaic, the IRGC mosaic that was pummeling Bahrain was, holy fuck, they were going crazy in the first couple of weeks. If you remember, they just never stopped hitting Bahrain. It was the Dubai quadrant and the Bahrain quadrant that were just pummeling. And if you recall, I was like, I don't know what the fuck is going on here. Maybe the dude got cucked by some dude in Bahrain or something, but they were hitting that shit like they had revenge fantasies in mind, okay? Multiple hangars. Oh, yeah. They said other parts of the base in Bahrain also suffered significant damage that is likely repairable. Multiple hangars and warehouses in the Ali Al Salem air base in Kuwait also were struck, according to the American Enterprise Institute's unofficial assessment that was reviewed by NBC News. The assessment also shows a munitions storage facility at a military base in Adbil in northern Iraq that was damaged, and a runway at the sprawling Al Udeid air base in Qatar was destroyed. Al Udeid Air Base is the air base for CENTCOM, Central Command. That is the heart of the American military operations in the fucking region. And Iran destroyed one of its fucking runways. That is unbelievable. Okay? U.S. bases have been cleared of U.S. troops and other personnel. So many of the bases were left essentially empty and vulnerable to attack by Iranian missiles and drones. Many of the troops who were temporarily relocated are expected to return to the bases once the tensions in the region subside. According to American Enterprise Institute's assessment, Iran hit more than 100 targets across 11 bases in 7 Gulf countries. Those attacks fell on U.S. and host nation bases in Qatar, the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Jordan, Kuwait, Iraq, and Saudi Arabia. The reason why this is, I guess, unique for some, maybe not interesting or unique for you, is because there was no information. There was an informational blackout in the GCC. People were literally being thrown in prison. There are still people in prison, including a friend of mine that I talked about as well, who just got released, as a matter of fact. He's an Al Jazeera reporter. But it was insane. Like, there was tremendous information blackout. The Planet Lab satellite imagery was frozen from the region, so we couldn't see the extensive damage, and yet we still knew, but most Americans were completely fucking oblivious, right? As a part of Epic Fury, the potential future costs to rebuild American military infrastructure overseas may include repair, reconstruction, outright replacement, or even abandonment and decommissioning of locales. Mackenzie Eaglin, a senior fellow at American Enterprise Institute, said in a statement about the group's assessment, war damage also includes estimated costs for infrastructure that is unsalvageable. Eaglin's cost estimate for repairing the infrastructure is more than $5 billion. Oh, my Lord. but that amount does not account for some of the radar systems, weapon systems, and aircraft and other equipment destroyed in the Iranian strikes, she said. Eaglin has worked on defense and budgetary and military readiness issues for years and is a former Pentagon official. The Iranians damaged at least 2 air defenses in the region, according to the U.S. officials. It's worse than that, by the way. In Bahrain, the base of the 5th Fleet headquarters, 7 reports of damage to satellite communications, radar protection structures, and large warehouses. Just know that those are gone, okay? If they're reporting that there was extensive damage, that means it's over. It's done. Remember the AWACS plane that they were claiming was dinged, right? There were 2 Strato tankers, and they were like, well, one was, there were 2 AWACS planes, and one was reported as being like somewhat damaged. It was obliterated, right? It was just fucking obliterated. So whenever these guys talk about like lightly damaged, dinged, it just means it's over, okay? It's been boomed out of existence. There's a video of the 5th Fleet headquarters getting bombed in the first few days. Yeah. That's gonna leave a mark, you know. That's nothing. That's nothing you can't. It's not something you can put like a little bit of flight tape on and buff out. In Iraq, in the Adabid military base, 1 report of damage to General Administrative Building. In Jordan, the Mufawag Salti Air Base, damage to General Administrative Building. 10 reports of damage to warehouse and a runway in Kuwait in the Ali Al Salem Air Base. It's a fuck ton of damage. Okay. I'm going to subscribe to NBC News for a month to bring these screenshots. For people with poor reading comprehension, what's new here is that the Iranian jets flew straight through U.S. air defenses into Kuwait and possibly Bahrain and the United Arab Emirates to drop gravity bombs on American assets. The last time something like this happened was during the Korean War. The closest official confirmation we've had of this was a CENTCOM press release on March 2nd acknowledging Iranian Air Force activity. This also makes a little bit, this also clears something up, specifically in Kuwait, where the Kuwaiti Air Force, the Kuwaiti Air Force pilot shooting down American fighter jets makes a little bit more sense now, because it was just like, what the fuck? Did this guy just go rogue or something? Well, it turns out he might have accidentally thought that it was Iranian fighter jets or something, and then the Ghost of Kuwait took out 3 American fighter jets thinking it was an Iranian fighter jet, potentially. Yeah, anyone who gets their news about the Iran war from sources outside of the Fox neocon sewer of Sean Hannity and Ben Shapiro already knows that Iran absolutely pummeled U.S. bases in multiple countries. This new reporting shows billions of dollars worth of damage and even cites a study from the neocon American Enterprise Institute for support. If you talk to any trustworthy U.S. officials, they'll give you the real story about the war. Not just that Iran inflicted far more damage than known and that the U.S. government hid it, including the number and severity of U.S. casualties, but also that, as happened in the last war with Iran in 2025, both the U.S. and Israel, and now the Persian Gulf dictatorships, are very low on munitions and especially anti-missile defense systems. Guy on Reddit in the know says they were jumpy because of the F-5 leading to 3 jets getting shot down. They shot down the F-15s the day after the F-5 because they were jumping from the F-5 getting through from the mouth of someone in the know. Okay, that's just speculation. That's no different than me fucking speculating. You went to Reddit for that. Come on. What is this? Breaking the rules with Hasan Piker. Very important.
Got me, dude. It starts with the implicit biases.
Bro, you good? Brian goes hard with the fit. All right. Let's continue. We'll look at memes later. Okay. Where is it? The erroneous. Oh, Ryan Grimm also has some words on the reporting from mainstream news, mainstream outlets about Trump potentially going into talks with Iran when no such talks were taking place. The erroneous news reports indicating that the U.S. and Iran would be restarting talks were produced because Pakistan's ISPR sent the following incorrect update to many journalists. They didn't send it directly to me, but I was forwarded it. This was the message. Breaking. Attributable to government sources. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi is expected to arrive in Islamabad tonight with a small delegation, according to government sources. Okay, I'm not going to lie. I'm not saying, I'm not saying this because but it does kind of feel like Pakistan is not, as well equipped to be the table here. Okay, they have their own ambitions here. It seems. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi is expected to arrive in Islamabad tonight with a small delegation, according to government sources. Following important discussions with the Pakistani mediation team, a second round of Islamabad peace talks between the United States and Iran is expected, government sources say. A U.S. logistics and security team is already present in Islamabad to facilitate the negotiations process. It was never true that Araghchi had any plans to re-enter negotiations last week. Why would the Pakistanis say otherwise? Anyway, odd stuff. Are you being paid by India? No, but this is like... I guess this is growing pains for Pakistan a little bit, but you're not supposed to do stuff like this. You know what I mean? It could be because they want to be in good favor with the United States. So they're trying to play ball, but it seems to me like bad diplomacy. And this is something that a lot of analysts have been saying about Pakistan's involvement. Given this report from Ryan Grimm, it's very hard to imagine Iran trusting Pakistan to mediate talks again. This is exactly the type of continuous media hype, leaks, and rumors from the Pakistani side that should make Iran refuse to conduct any further diplomacy in Islamabad, says Eric Sperling. Yeah. Ali Hasham says, my understanding is that the continuous media hype and leaks and rumors from the Pakistani side is complicating the situation and could lead to changing the venue of the talks. Could it be China? Pakistan is in a unique situation because it is at the epicenter of the Cold War between China and the United States of America. It is China's very own Israel in many respects, but it also is still very much controlled by the CIA. So, and it has good relations with Iran, like really, really positive relations with Iran. So it is, I understand why they would hold these talks in a country like Pakistan. But yeah, Pakistan is moving a little bit like Klay Thompson. You know what I mean? Perhaps a little too greedy with its newfound importance in international diplomacy. These are not mistakes that Oman would make. These are not mistakes that Turkey would make. These are not mistakes that countries that have had to deal with stuff like this would make. The reason why is because if you bust your nut too hard in order to boost your importance, you might actually lose you might lose the opportunity, a generational fumble. It looks really good when you got the Islamabad Accords, right? Like that will end this war between Iran and America. That's a really good thing, right? But you're maybe a little too excited. If your goals end up getting in the way of the ultimate goal of conducting this ceasefire negotiation, then you might be cooked.
Live in studio, Brent, we just spoke right before the show with this breaking news. The president saying over the phone to me that he's making this decision because he feels like an 18-hour flight, sending his people there when he doesn't feel like they're going to accomplish much with the Iranians, when the Iranians can just call.
The Turkey table is too wobbly, untrustworthy. It's misleading. No, it's because Turkey's a NATO country. That probably plays a big role in why Iran wouldn't want to do it in Turkey. Pakistan is a nuclear-armed sovereign nation. A nuclear-armed sovereign nation that it has very close relationships with China, extensive and very close relations with China, but is also, from the American perspective, has like an established American presence in it as well.
All us here. What do you make of that?
Well, I think it's the right move. It's again, this is a negotiation that we're still kind of going back and forth on. The Iranians, I think, are trying to recover some form of leverage. I mean, this note that they brought with them to Pakistan was more like a list of complaints than a serious, like, opening our next phase in a serious ceasefire negotiation, some solution. So clearly, the diplomacy, I think, has run its course again, and it's going to probably require, and I think the time is ripe for another round of more strong or forceful diplomacy using the military hammer, the military tools. And I think on the Straits, that's their strongest leverage still, unfortunately. There's going to be a need for demonstration of American might and to demonstrate who really controls access through the Straits, and that's the U.S.
Well, let's talk about who really we're negotiating with. I mean, it's hard to tell who's in charge of Iran right now in the IRGC. There was some reporting that the IRGC sort of pushed out the parliament.
I'm not saying this because I'm Turkish, Cap. No, I think Oman would probably be a better place to hold these negotiations than Turkey.
Speaker from negotiations, and the president has said over and over again that Iran's leadership is divided, that there's a lot of infighting, and we really don't know who's in charge. But Ghalibaf, the parliament speaker, pushed back on that on Twitter. He wrote, "In Iran, there are no radicals or moderates. We are all Iranian and revolutionary, and with the iron unity of the nation and government, with complete obedience to the supreme leader of the revolution, we will make the aggressor criminal regret his actions." Who do you think, what do you think is going on inside Iran? Who is in charge?
Question. I don't think it really should change or temper the approach the U.S. military is being put to use in the region. This is part of the design. When you want to try to provide an opportunity for the Iranian people to take back their country, there is going to be this fracture of the regime. And that regime, by the way, is probably less than 20% of the population. So when they talk about everyone's united, it's a fraction of the overall population.
This is all pure cope. Fox is actually coping. If the Strait were open tomorrow, it would take 3 months for everything to get online, 6 months to clear completely, a year at least to get back to normal. We've been shot. The bullet just hasn't hit us yet. By the time we notice we've been hit, we're already bleeding out. I mean, I don't know. If you ask Professor Jeffrey Sachs, he doesn't seem to think so. He seems to think that it's baked in.
Is fed up with this theocratic dictatorship and terror network that they've been living under for far too long.
So we're moving these naval assets we have now into the Persian Gulf in the area. And now the Navy can go after these fast boats that have become a real big problem. Of course, the Iranian Navy is pretty much at the bottom of the sea, but we've got these fast boats that, perhaps we could see them laying down more mines. There is the threat of that. This is the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, announcing it.
Why do you watch the Fox News reporting on these negotiations? Is it just to get to know the Republican spin they want people to believe, or do you think they get certain information other news channels don't? No, just spin. Because we know what's going on the ground. In order to find out the truth, you look to the Strait. Okay, you look to the battle lines. You look to who has the leverage by looking at each country that is involved, the belligerents that are involved, and their military goals and whether they've achieved it or not. If tankers are not crossing through the Strait of Hormuz, America has not been able to establish any leverage whatsoever. America's ultimate goal is to open the Strait of Hormuz. Okay, if you want to understand the spin from the State Department aligned media, you go to like CBS, CNN, NBC News, ABC. If you want to understand the pro-Trump spin on top of it, the maximalist spin, then you go to Fox News. It's important to understand what Fox News is saying so you understand how to talk to your grandparents, how to talk to your parents. There's still plenty of Trump hogs out there in hogland. You got to know what information they're receiving so you can be better at addressing the misinformation.
This week.
Part of what the president is threatening is ensuring if there's attempts to recklessly and irresponsibly lay more mines, we're going to deal with that. It's a violation of the ceasefire. So transit is occurring, much more limited than anybody would like to see, and with more risk than people would like to see. But that's because Iran is doing irresponsible things with small, fast boats.
So you're the expert at this, Brent. I mean, how is this going to work? Are we going to be able to patrol this very large Iranian coast?
The short answer is yes, and we've had the capacities from day one to actually identify and go after those small boats. And for the viewers, look at the video that we've been putting out going after the narco-terrorist boats in the Caribbean.
Venezuela.
Think of those are the type of threats. They're not going to sink a tanker. They're not going to sink a container ship. They are a harassment. They can be identified and seen fairly early. Now we have more forces there, notably the Marines, because now that you can put Marines on U.S. flagships, like there are 4 right now that could get underway with U.S. merchant mariners, you could put the Marines on board so that if, for example, these small boats or drones get close enough, well, the Marines have crew-served weapons to deal with that. We need to show a demonstration of American strength and that the shipping is not at risk. And you'll see the insurance rates drop. You saw that early on when the blockade was first put in and the first round of negotiations, very clearly evaporating the Iranians' leverage there. It's time for that being done again.
So we've got the military might, and we've
Yeah.
shown them what we can do and what we're capable of doing. But we're also showing them we can squeeze them economically. And some experts believe that this is actually perhaps the way that we're going to get them to cave. And State just put out that they are now targeting some Iran's oil network in China. Are we going to get them to cave by taking some of these measures, hitting them with more sanctions, going after their oil?
I think so. I mean, this is the genius of the blockade. And that is, if it works, it applies economic pressure on the Iranian regime, and it forces more trade to the United States. It's long overdue that our allies and partners come and buy American energy instead of from very risky or hostile countries like Russia. So it works either way. Now, the Chinese are the ones that are the biggest and the disadvantage, and the Iranians are being pressured, I suspect, by Beijing, because Beijing is getting a large amount of its oil on sanctioned vessels, the Dark Fleet. And those ships going to fuel China's economy is a real, very large motivator for them to get the Iranians to capitulate. And so the blockade fuels that on top of the economic pressure directly to the Iranian regime.
Okay, we'll keep watching it. It doesn't sound like we're going to see talks anytime soon. The president telling me over the phone, he told his people, you're not going to make that 18-hour flight to go there. We have all the cards. They can call us anytime they want, but you're not going to be making any more 18-hour flights to sit around talking about nothing. That's how he feels about it at this hour of the day. Brent Sadler, great to have you.
Thank you.
Have a great weekend. Great to see you.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.
This week, President Trump said the ceasefire between Lebanon and Israel would be extended. But here on their border, the question is ceasefire? What ceasefire? Today, Israeli strikes hit Lebanon, with 4 declared dead so far. The death toll of this conflict is estimated to be 2,500, as the IDF and Hezbollah exchange fire at escalating cost, both sides accusing the other of breaking the ceasefire.
We have to be honest.
Yeah, Donnie Dunnon. Dude, what the fuck is this Dave Smith guy on, dude? Is he all right? I just saw another tweet by this guy. He's still chirping at me. He's like, I don't know why he's doing this. Look. Comic Dave Smith says, it is true that I challenged Hasan to a debate years ago. I did it publicly on my podcast. It's verifiable. It's also true that Hasan much more recently sent me a message giving me props and I didn't respond. There's zero contradiction here, and now stop stealing. I said, you can respond to me via DM, right? I don't know what this one-sided shadowboxing thing you're doing is. We can talk about whatever you want to talk about, man. To which Core retweeted and said, did you think I was trying to message you and accidentally just did a podcast instead? What does this mean? You've done several segments on me in the past. Was that one-sided shadowboxing? Do you want to debate if advocating stealing is good? I'm down. I said, I can set up a debate whenever you want. I'm saying you covered that you want to debate me on your podcast. I don't recall. However, I'm asking why you haven't communicated this directly to me and we're claiming I'm ducking you when I'm clearly not. Why not have a conversation where you agree on some things and discuss other issues you disagree with? That would probably be more interesting than a debate on one topic. Okay, sure. Yeah, even his own fans are like, you're handling this so weirdly. You do a segment on him like you're Dana Bash, essentially saying he's too scared to debate you, and are just tweeting about him instead of messaging him privately. DM him and invite him on the show. Don't do this performative debate me shit. I'm realizing how much of a bad faith clout chaser Dave Smith is based on that quote retweet. It feels weird. I think he's trying to get media pickup so we can weasel a debate with you on Fox News specifically as Weasley. I don't understand why he's doing it like this. He will permanently pretend to not understand because he's view farming. Yeah, but I don't think he gets this. This makes him look bad to his own audience as well, because his own audience would love for us to have a conversation. So this kind of makes him, I mean, this is strange. You know what I mean? You're going to debate a guy with zero emotion. By the way, he's so irrelevant. I don't care. And I don't even think it will be as much as a debate as you think it is. I think that's the problem, though. These guys understand that their audience is like nonpartisan on the issue of Israel, right? So he's already cultivated an anti-Israel audience, and he's too scared to lose his like right-wing credibility by coming across as though he's in total agreement with someone like myself. I think that's what the problem is. So he's just trying to max out on the clout farming by presenting himself as like, oh, I'm not like this guy at all. I don't agree with this guy. I want to make sure that I don't agree with this guy at all. It's very strange. I have no issues having a conversation with people that I disagree with on issues that I agree with them on. It would be akin to me being like, oh, I would never talk to Tucker Carlson because we agree on Israel. No, I don't mind that conversation, but it does. Carlson is the one who's avoiding that conversation. You responding to him publicly fucked up his strategy? Yeah. In a way, like they're trying to continue positioning themselves as like anti-me to make sure that their audience knows like they're the good kind of commentary people, right? Like there is this real fear. There is this real fear amongst right-wing content creators that they're going to come across as agreeing with someone like myself. I'm the boogeyman of the right for many, many years at this point. And I think that's the real problem. That's what it is. It's the same reason why Tucker Carlson won't have a conversation with me either. I don't think Dave Smith is interested in a good faith debate. It doesn't fucking matter, dude. Most people who want to debate Hasan aren't interested in a good faith debate. They want the attention of cloud. Hasan crushes them in general, and then they start screaming about all the fake outrage shit because they're losing. Yeah, I hope it doesn't happen, but it is what it is. It might happen. There's a high likelihood that it does happen. Is all explained here by Vanguard? What the fuck? This is 24 minutes of...
This person says, I'd love to see you go on Breaking Points again and maybe bury the hatchet with Kyle Kulinski and go on Crystal Kyle and Friends. You know, that's an interesting suggestion, given the fact that Dave Smith and Kyle have beefed and Kyle's called him out a number of times. Dave Smith responds and says, I'll go on Breaking Points anytime they want me on. I love all of those guys. I don't really have any beef with Kyle. He started talking shit about me for some reason, and I responded in kind. I think the way he's going at people for voting for...
I just don't get it. I'm like legitimately confused. I can assume, I can speculate as to what is the reason why he's maneuvering like this. As I mentioned already, like he can't come across like he is in agreement with the things that I'm saying, but he has to find like areas of disagreement, right? St. Peter will condemn you to hell for your cowardice. Stop ducking Dave Smith. Admit you steal cars. Yeah, that's how I made my money. Piker Broadcasting Service. All of your donations go to me in my car theft endeavors. Anyway, Hasan joining the Kia Boys. I am the Kia Boy. All right. Trump pulls U.S. negotiating team from Iran peace talks. Here is Danny Denon.
You know, the Lebanese government, they have no control of Hezbollah. And Hezbollah is sending rockets, trying to sabotage the ceasefire. And Israel, we have to retaliate. Every time we see a threat, we take action. And I think the main question is whether the Lebanese government is capable of enforcing a ceasefire.
But Israel too has a record of breaching agreements, as another attempt by Pakistan to broker a meeting between the US and Iran
Israel has a record in breaching agreements.
Collapsed. Today delegations were set for Islamabad. But as the US claimed a deal was possible, Iran said there would be no direct talks. The conduit would be Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif. Here the Prime Minister greeted Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi like an old friend. But as the Iranians left, the Americans canceled their flights.
And breaking right now, President Trump just moments ago exclusively telling me over the phone that he has unilaterally canceled Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner's trip to Pakistan to meet with the Iranians. The president says it's not worth his people making the 18-hour
breaking news, me.
flight when he says we have all the...
It's not that special, lady. He picks up the phone for everybody, it seems.
...cards.
Just weeks ago, Iran and the US appeared closer to a deal with Pakistan, again the middleman. But today they cannot even sit in the same room. Iranian officials have been Israeli assassination targets, and trust is a commodity in short supply. Military bravado is in abundance. On the Strait of Hormuz, Iran released videos claiming control, as America said the same. Conflict over this crucial route is just one of the barriers to a deal, in a process defined by talks that were not talks and ceasefires that have not stopped strikes, in a pattern across the region. This is Gaza today. Among those to be buried is a baby, a young mother and her unborn twins. Their lives were ended by Israeli strikes, despite the October ceasefire. For every delay and diplomatic failure, this is a reminder of what's at stake.
Well, I'm joined by Elliot Abrams, who was the US Special Representative for Iran and Venezuela during President Trump's first term. He served in senior foreign policy roles for President George W. Bush and President Reagan, too. Thanks so much for joining us. And hopefully we'll get to President Trump's relationships with his NATO allies in a bit. But first to the Middle East. We've just heard that Donald Trump has pulled his team literally as they were about to get on the plane by the sounds of it. What do you make of that?
Well, I think on that, you cannot blame.
When did I claim you were ducking me? I responded to segments you did about me years ago and challenged you to a debate. If you were unaware, then I take you at your word. I'm down. What do you want to debate? No, this is new. He's doing it now. He's doing it new style. You could have a dope Gen X debate the morality of his past Trump support, debate Israel. What are we going to debate on? We agree on Israel. Brother, he prompted you for this. What the fuck's he doing? Asking for a debate topic? Yeah, I don't even understand what the hell's going on here. I am a little bit confused, but I'm sure it'll be fine. He can't even hide his debate lord behavior. Now it's just down to topics and logistics. Have you noticed they haven't been interviewing Arakshi lately? Yes, I have noticed that. The thing is, positions at all. You're making his day. A debate is to a libertarian what a democratic revolution is to a Marxist. What is this? You're literally a Candace Owens fan? You should sit this one out. A Candace Owens fan? Wait, what? What the fuck? Where did she think I was being serious when I said I'm a clandestine operator? Dude, I don't know how to have a conversation with half of these guys anymore because I genuinely, I mean this sincerely, I think they're too stupid. Like it sometimes feels like I have to just like slam my head into a wall multiple times before I can like have a normal conversation on the same frequency that these guys are operating on. What are you fucking saying? What do you mean I'm a Candace Owens fan? I've been dunking on Candace Owens for the past decade, man. What the fuck? What the fuck is
legalized comedy?
Trump. It seems as if the real change is in Tehran with the IRGC refusing to allow an actual negotiation. And if that's the case, why would you send your people over there to talk to the Pakistanis? Doesn't make sense. We can do that by Zoom. I think the problem really is we don't know who is fully in charge in Tehran. There does seem to be a bit of jockeying there as to whether they want a face-to-face negotiation.
And yet we hear Donald Trump also say today, we hold all the cards. I mean, how true do you think that is?
Well, it isn't true. Obviously, the Iranians have some control of the Strait of Hormuz. That's the kind of talk that Trump often engages in.
But exactly on that point about who does and doesn't hold the cards, I mean, quite critical here if they ever get to talks again.
It's funny. It's funny because it's like Channel 4 is not putting up with this shit. Like even other Western news that normally would be up America's asshole and taking everything they say verbatim and repeating it are like, well, it kind of feels like the situation isn't in America's favor.
Is, for example, the nuclear question. And yet it's being reported that the Iranians are saying the nuclear question for them isn't even on the table.
Well, what has motivated the president for about 20 years is something that his predecessors also said. They cannot get a nuclear weapon. And if that's their position, that is, they will continue to seek one, continue to enrich uranium, try to rebuild the program. It's a formula for more fighting, I'm afraid.
But I mean, there is a very strong argument being made by Donald Trump's critics that actually Iran has much more uranium now at various enrichment levels accumulated after, in fact, because President Trump pulled out of the deal struck by Obama. Is his best hope getting back to that position with the Iranians?
No, that's getting back to the Obama nuclear deal of 2015, which gave them the right to enrich and simply delayed their nuclear weapons program by about 10 or 15 years, which is where we are today. Iran was in
shit, dude. Oh my God. Shut the fuck up. Anyone who says this is straight up a propagandist for the state of Israel. Okay. It is a denial of observable reality. If the goal was to ensure that Iran was not enriching uranium beyond the civilian usage, then JCPOA accomplished it. There was only one party that did not like that. It was Israel. These people straight up are doing propaganda, not even for America at this point. This isn't even Trump. This isn't even pro-Trump propaganda. Okay? They are denying observable reality at the behest of Israel's goals.
Enriching to 60%. No country has ever done that without going on to build a nuclear weapon, and it shouldn't be permitted. So I do hope some kind of agreement is reached. But if it isn't, then whatever is left of their nuclear program will continue to be destroyed. I think most of it is pretty well destroyed.
So briefly, if you would, where do you think this goes next?
Well, I'm hopeful that through the Pakistanis or someone else, there can at least be some messages going back and forth. If that doesn't work, if there really is no agreement at all, and we've got some time now, then I am hopeful that the American closure of the Strait of Hormuz to Iranian ships will squeeze their economy so much that even if they're not willing to talk today, they will in 2 weeks or 4 weeks.
Because one of the arguments that is consistently made about Iran.
Motherfuckers acting like the U.S. military is intact. Yeah. No, it's going great. It's we didn't even want the Bahrain base. We like that it's a crater now. We're gonna make it a pool. We're gonna put some water in the crater that is now the Bahrain base, and we're gonna turn it into a pool. It's gonna be sick.
Is that victory for them is just about survival, and they can hang on much longer than clearly President Trump had imagined initially.
Yes, but the strain right now when there's no fighting is not all that great. It is a question of who's going to blink first. And what Trump is arguing is that their economy, if they cannot import or export by sea, is going to collapse.
I mean, just moving on to President Trump's current relationships with his NATO allies. Yesterday's leak from the Pentagon saying the US might review its neutral position on Britain's claim to the Falklands has caused some alarm. I mean, is it a clever tactic by the president?
I don't know if that ever got to the president. That, was on a list of things, nasty things that could be done to NATO allies who he felt were not sufficiently supportive. But I do think the king's visit is an opportunity to discuss this. My advice to the king would be, remember the Chagos Islands and the Diego Garcia base. What he should be saying to the president is, if you want us to get out of that particular location, the Falklands, because you think it's an imperial possession, well, there are other imperial possessions too, like Diego Garcia, that you don't want us to get out of. So I think he can make a pretty strong argument that these so-called imperial possessions are actually very important and useful for the West, not just for the UK.
Okay, it'd be interesting to see what argument the king does make. Elliot Abrams, thanks very much for talking to us.